Okay, here's the copied down those 5 steps that I had in lesson 1, and I have an example here we can listen to. Okay, so there's the example. It's just, you know, a generic chord progression, just plunk plunk with the right hand and octaves in the left hand. And I'm going to be taking the board off, I think, so I can reach that play button. And from time to time, so we can listen to the example again. But the first thing you need to do on your sheet of paper, or if you have a whiteboard, is draw your line across. Okay? And of course, left hand's going to go on the bottom, right hand's going to go on the top. Now, the first step, step 1, was to figure out what the bass note is. And here we just have piano, so it's going to be easy to hear that bass note. If you have lots of other instruments going, you might have to listen to the bass guitar, whatever the bass guitar is playing at that time. It's just that lowest note you can hear in the music. So, if we start it again, I'm going to take the board down. And we'll just kind of listen a little bit, and then I'll put the board back up and we'll write some of the stuff we've learned. But so we're listening to the bass note first. So here we go. And you want to stop right there. It really helps if you can put it on iTunes or something. You can stop the music really easily instead of doing it on a CD player. It's more difficult. But let's do it again. Let's listen to that lowest most note in the left hand. Hear it? Hear that bum? You can sing it. Dum. That's the first thing you do. Bum. So you find that note, and I did it in the key of C to make it easy. So I'm going to give you a chance first if you want to stop the video and see if you can nail that note on the piano. Bum. If it's real easy and you're thinking, oh, this is too easy, then great, because a lot of people have trouble doing that. Just that simplest thing. Bum. And if you have trouble, don't worry about it. That's why we're doing this. Bum. Then the note is an A. You might have to hunt around until you get to it. So we know the first note is an A, and we hear it's pretty low. Listen to it again. Hear that bass to it. So I'm going to put it down here, A. All right. So on your sheet of paper, your whiteboard that we have on that on the bottom side of the line, let's put an A there. And you actually can put 2 A's for the octave, like I always do, or you can just put 1 A. So you have the A. And let's go ahead and do the right hand part with it. I like to do both hands together as opposed to doing one hand all the way through and then the other hand. So we got the bass note A. Now let's listen to the right hand note here. The top. And remember, we're listening to the top note, and it'll kind of, you know, poke its head out. You'll hear that, you know, most easiest, I think. So just listen to that top note. Let's do it again. Hear that top note? Bum. So try to find that. I'll give you a second. Pause your video and find that note. Bum. Okay? It's the same note, right? It's an A. So we have an A in the bottom and an A in the top. So on your piece of paper, you have A on the bottom half. Put an A on the top. Okay? Now after that, we want to fill in the gaps, okay? So we have A on the top and A on the bottom. Let me go ahead and write that here. Actually, I'll just move it over because I don't need to have the letters there where the keys are, you know. And I'm going to go ahead and put an octave like that. Then we heard the A on the right hand. And most of your chords, you know, in music like this, will be sort of in the middle. Your right hand will be, you know, up and above, or just a little below, a little above middle C, you know, right in this area. So you got to kind of know where you're going to start. So we hear that A, and I'm going to leave some room because we know if the A is the highest note, and we're doing 3-note chords, which we probably are, you know, I'm going to need 2 more notes there. Since the pinky's on that one, you know, it's up for grabs what the other 2 notes are. Now, we just have to hunt around and find it. And you hear that first, and you can hear the quality of the chord when you listen to it. Does it sound like a happy chord or a sad chord? That'll give you a good place to start. Sounds kind of sad, right? Because happy chords are major and minor chords sound kind of sad. So remember I said that whatever the bass note is, that's 99% of the time that's going to be the name of the chord. So if it's an A chord and we decide, if play an A chord, A, C, E, right? A, C, E. So that's an A chord. That sounds like the right quality of chord because it's sad. So the chord is A, C, E. We already have an A, so we need an E, and then we need a C. Let's see if that sounds right. All right, let's go back and compare it to our recording here. Sounds just like it, okay? All right, so it's kind of a methodical way of doing it. Now, if you don't know about chords and that confuses you, you can just kind of hunt around and until you find what chord you're looking for, because it can only be in this area, right? Because our hands are only so big, so we have to play chords in one area. It's not going to be way down here, so we can hunt for the other two chords. Does that sound like it? No? No? So there we can hunt around until we find it, and that might take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or can even take half an hour until you get really good at it. So there's our first chord. And there are rules in music and these guidelines I'll give you, and they can always be broken here and there, but they're good just to get you started. So we know it's going to be a 3-note chord. We know left hand A. We know A in the top. Then we hunt around to find that first chord. Now let's go back to our recording again. And listen to the second chord. We already have the first one, right? So let's listen to the second one. Hear that? Same chord, right? Didn't change. If it changed, we'd have to go through the process again, but since it's exactly the same thing, we're going to write it again. Or we could just put a 2 here. That's what I do sometimes, 2 times. Now let's listen what comes right after that. Because you hear the first 2 chords, and then you hear something that comes right after that. Hear that? Dum, bum, bum. There was something else. We can hear that it was low, right? Can you hear that it's low? So it's going to be left hand. There we go. Now I'm going to tell you something too. When you're playing chords like this, a lot of times you just stay on the same chord and do kind of a rhythm with it. So, you can hear that that's the same octave in the left hand. Just kind of filling in the gap, filling in the rhythm there. So I'm going to put that A octave again. Alright, so right after that low A octave, we're going to listen to the very next thing. Now, it's very, very important to stop the recording right after you get to the part where you're listening to, because if you hear a little more, it's going to mess you up. So, stop the recording right after you hear that next little thing that you're trying to transcribe. Alright, so there's our chord. Bum, 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 bum. And we're listening to the bass note first, right? We want the bass note first. So let's listen again. We hear bum, bum, bum. So we can hear it goes, if you're singing along with it, it goes down, right? Bum, bum. So on an A octave, I want to go down. And this is really what I do when I figure out songs. Now I do it really, really fast, but because I've done it a long time. But it's the same process. So I'm going down. Bum. So is it here? No, where is it? Just goes down a little bit. Bum, bum. And most bass lines, when they go down, they'll just go down a step, 1 note at a time. That happens all the time in music. So I'm going to go ahead and write my G there. All right. Now listen, see if you can hear that G again in the bass. All right, G octave. And remember I said on the bass note it could either be an octave or octave and a fifth. Well, when you're playing this low on piano, you're probably not going to have a fifth in there, because the lower you get, on the keyboard, the more spread out you want the notes to be. You don't want them to be too close together because they will blur. Now if you're up here in the middle of the piano or closer to the middle of the piano, you'll have octave and fifths. But when you get down this low, probably not going to have a fifth. Listen, that, you can hear that kind of sounds muddy. Alright, so no octave and a fifth there. Now let's listen to the right hand. At this point, right, we have this, and we're looking for this chord right here. Let's do it again. Bum, this is our starting note. Here it goes. Da, da. Does the same thing the right hand does. Bum, bum. Remember, we're just listening for the top note, not the whole chord, just the top note. Bum, bum, bum. That's not it. Bum, bum, no, bum, bum, bum. All right. So G. It's going to get a little more complicated here, so hang on. And again, if this is super simple and you're going, oh, this is easy, then that's a good thing. So we hear that. And always go back through and play what you already have and then see if it sounds right with the next. That sounds right. Now what do we do now? We fill in the middle. We need to know what the other two notes are in the right hand chord. Okay? So we try it out. I'm going to try several ways. I'm going to do this. And then, let's see. Does that sound right? No, it didn't sound quite right. Right? Can you hear? It's different. So and that's part of the process. If you know what it's not, then you'll be closer to finding what it is. So we know it's not a C chord, so we throw that out. What are our other options? Well, it could have a flat in it. Let's try that. Let's do G, D, B flat. That doesn't sound right. Okay, we could try, C, E flat, G. That's not right. And if you know anything about keys, you'll know, about flats and sharps. You'll know probably aren't going to have black notes in there. But I'm just going through the process and showing you, you just try out different things. Now let's try this chord here. See if this one works. G, D, B. Right? Okay. So you see what I mean? Where you only have so many options. Once you get to that top note, whatever's left, there's not much to choose from. So you have a high percentage chance of figuring out what the chord is, as long as it's not a weird chord like a diminished or augmented. Okay, so I'm going to put DB here. Now let's go a little faster on the other ones. I just wanted to take you step by step there. I'd rather you be bored and getting it than me going too fast and it flying by you. So. Hear that G again. Here I'm going just a little bit at a time. I'm listening to that next, whatever's next, and then stopping the recording right after that. Okay, listen to that bass note there. Let's start it again. Da, da, da. Hear that? Bum, bum, bum. All right. So, bum, bum, donny, bum. Hear it go up. Bum, 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 bum. There it is. D. And let's make sure that's right. Let's play this. See if that sounds right with the recording. Match it back. So that sounds right. So I'm going to put a D, and I'm going to make it a little bit higher on my whiteboard so I know to go to the right instead of going to the left. Listen to the right hand now, the top note. Listen to that top note again. So we hear bum, 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 bum. Hear that? So I'm going to put, sounds like E-I-O. So F there. Now we got to fill in the blanks. What are the other two notes? Well, again, there's only so many choices, right? Once we get this note, the F, we only have something. We could be this, it could be this, or it could be this. And those are really the only three that would make any sense. So let's try that. Doesn't sound right, so we know it's not a B and a D. Let's do the other one. That kind of sounds jazzy. 7th chord, and that's not what we had here. So let's try D and A. That sounds right. So now I'm going to play the recording, and I'm going to stop right when I get to the chord, and then I'm going to try what. Same chord, okay? And this will be more difficult if you have a track with a bunch of instruments in it, but you get the idea. So D and A, and I'm going to stop the recording because we're getting too long. We're already up to 16 minutes, and on the next video, actually, let me play this here at the end for you, and I'll play it again, and then you can rewind the video and listen to it again and again, and try to get it yourself. And see what you come up with for the rest of it, and then I'll show you what is actually being played, see how close you are. Here's the whole thing. Okay, I'll play it one more time. Here it is again. Okay, so we'll end this video here. Give it a shot yourself. Go as far as you can, and then match it up. I'll show you what is actually being played here on video 3.